I'm back with another marketing audit for one of the small businesses in the Enji community. Because as a small business marketing consultant and one of the founders of Enji, one of the ways that I can really support folks is by giving them actionable, real advice that helps them do their marketing better, faster, or easier. And today I'm going to be auditing 2 pages of a website from Sugar Flowers by Kelsey Cakes. So let's dive in. So I'm here on one of the pages of Kelsey's website that we're going to be auditing today. And I want to start things off by celebrating what's working really well on this page. And the first thing that struck me was the brand. It's so consistent. It's so fun. She has all of these amazing hand-drawn elements. There's some subtle images in the background that you see. There's movement on this page. It's definitely a strong visual brand. And I absolutely love that. And because that's something that a lot of small business owners can struggle with. The other thing that I noticed is how many amazing images she has of her doing the work and also of the final product. And this is a really fantastic way to just be sort of subliminally reinforcing your expertise and the time that it takes for you to do your craft when you're someone who's working with their hands like Kelsey. Like this background video, I can't tell you how many times I watched it. I was like, that looks so cool. So those are 2 of the things that I love about the visuals here. But one of the things that struck me that you can't really see or you won't see because I closed it out. But when I first landed on Kelsey's website, there was a pop-up that offered, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was some sort of guide that is a freebie lead magnet to help her build her email list. So that's a really great thing that she's got. And then if you don't have that for one of your lead magnets, I definitely think that you should add to your website as well. But the next thing that I really found to be like, this is good, is how simple her navigation is, right? There's no question about where it is I would need to go if I wanted to learn about her, contact her, read FAQs, if I'm a cake decorator, if I want a custom design, or if I just want to peruse her shop. So that's a really fantastic thing. She's made it super easy to get around her website. But also the footer. And if you watched the last marketing audit that I did for a wedding planner, I also complimented her footer. And Kelsey also does a really great job here, right? She's using this real estate probably because I know that Kelsey is pretty SEO minded, and she's got links to other important pages of her website. She's got a description of the business. The one thing that I would like to see here is an addition of her social media links, just to make that easy. And also a direct email listed here, not like a contact button, but just like what's the email at kelseykakes.com. So those are the things that I really, really loved about her website in general and both of the pages that we're going to be looking at today. And sorry for the incessant scrolling, but that brings us to my first piece of constructive feedback for Kelsey. And that's that both of the pages that I audited for her, or that I am auditing, are really, really long. I mean, you can see over here on the right-hand side of the screen where my cursor is, I've got a lot of scrolling to do to get to the bottom. And this is something that I definitely, there's kind of some schools of thought here. There was a school of thought that was like long landing pages, say all of the things. And that's not totally a bad piece of advice. But in the end, if someone is going to be like, where is the bottom? Where is the end of this page? They're probably going to bounce. And so I would be curious, Kelsey, for you to look up the bounce rates on these pages, because I'm guessing that they're a little bit high. And part of the reason that I personally wanted to bring this up is because I wanted to read all of the things on the page, but I found it hard to do so because there were so many words to read and so many sections to get through. So I know you're trying to say all of the things that someone would need to know to feel really confident about buying sugar flowers from you, but you don't actually have to say all the things. And honestly, if it makes it too hard or feels like there's too much effort for the reader to go through it, they're not going to read it. And it's like having the opposite effect of what you wanted. So my advice here is to cut down a lot of the copy here. Let me find a good section to show as an example, which I think I need to go further down the page. apologies for the scrolling. So like in this section, right? It doesn't need to be so many words. You can make it a punchy headline and just say the thing that absolutely needs to get said. So that is sort of the first way that you can go about shortening a lot of these sections, is just saying the absolute bare minimum of what needs to be communicated. But the other thing is there are sections that straight up you could just delete. And I would say that this logistics section that I already landed on is a good example of one that you could just delete. Because this question, right, like, or not that, that's not that question, whoops. This question, right, like about shipping. That's a legitimate question that people have, and I understand why you want to give them a thorough answer. But you could just put that in the FAQ section that's below, and then if it's that important for people to know, like all of this stuff, then you could turn this into a blog post, I'm pretty sure. And I'm guessing that you have more to say about each step of the process of how you're actually shipping these delicate sugar flowers to your customers and clients across the country. So things like this just cut to make the page a lot shorter. Also, there are a few sections where you have testimonials for social proof, which is fantastic, but I'd almost like to see those in one section that are scrolling side to side versus like section here, section there, because again, we're trying to shorten the length of the page overall. The other thing that I noticed here is that you have multiple lead magnets, because you've got the one in the pop-up, but then there's this guide that folks can get. And so I would keep it to one just so there's not a lot of confusion. Because again, we're trying to shorten things up and keep things really, really focused for the people who are landing on this page. So that's the quick sort of audit of this page. And Kelsey, I'm sure you have more questions and you know where to find me. But if anyone has more questions about how they would shorten up a long landing page that they have on their own website, you can drop those questions into the comment section of this video. But let's head over to the second page that you wanted me to audit. And the difference between this page and the page that we were just on is this page is Kelsey trying to sell her sugar flowers and her services to other wedding professionals, versus the first page we looked at is for couples who are planning their wedding, getting married, or just having celebrations where they want sugar flowers on their cake. So when I will say that Kelsey sent me these two pages saying that they were definitely still a work in progress. So that's the sort of grain of salt for me, her, and you to know as I'm going through some of this advice here. But on this page, there were a lot of sections that were overlapping. And you, Kelsey, had asked that specific question, like, how much is it okay to overlap? And the answer to that is it's totally okay to have some sections that show up on both pages if they're super relevant to both pages. But overall, you don't want to be like taking 90% of a landing page and then still using it in this other place, because that gets into duplicative content and cannibalism of your own SEO and all those kinds of nerdy things. But it is okay to use some content on this page and then also on another. But one of the things that I think is the biggest takeaway for this page is the fact that there's a good amount of content that you just don't need to say here, because if you're selling to other wedding professionals, they're more educated about what your product is than a general consumer, right? And so I would love to see certain sections get elevated to the top of the page so that these are the ones that someone's only going to scroll a little bit, they get this information. So like this section here to me feels like a more appropriate hero section for this page, right? Right out the gate, you're saying these are sugar flowers for other wedding professionals, right? No confusion there. And then further down the page, I know there was a section about this right here, 10 years of experience, right? Because other wedding professionals are almost going to scrutinize you a little bit more than couples, because there's another spot where, oh no, right here, and make you look good. Because when one professional is hiring another professional, they're almost putting their own reputation on the line a little bit. And so this is a really good argument, again, to bring further up the page. And then I think that this sales section is really good, right? Like you're talking about sort of where the person could get stuck versus if they just outsourced things to you. So those are all things that really this page could just get cut down to, and all of the extra stuff can go away. Again, with the sort of products and lead magnets that you've got here, right? Your gum paste ebook, and then also this section with other downloadables. If you can condense this so that it's just shorter, maybe you're just doing, I know we're talking about 5, so we don't have even numbers, but a row of 2 and then 3, or maybe you have another one that you're working for, and then you can have a grid of 6, but that would make this web page a lot more succinct also. So again, it's a lot of the same advice from the page for couples of let's get this shorter and just say the things that need to get said, as well as on this page. And one of the last things that I will talk about is, again, if you watched the marketing audit I did for the wedding planner, I would really encourage you to use the headlines on these pages as the important pieces of real estate that they are. And there's 2 reasons that they're important. The first is it's very likely that the humans on this page are going to scroll through and only read the headlines. So if you go down and you read the headlines in order on any page of your website, are they telling the story, like basically the full story of what you need to tell, if that's the only stuff that someone would read? So that's the first reason they're important, because you want to make the argument you need to make. But then also, I would love to see more SEO keywords worked in naturally into these headlines, because that's an important piece of real estate for that. So I know, Kelsey, you sent me 2 other questions that I want to talk about. And so the first question that Kelsey asked was, how much should I be referencing my other offers on these pages? Like, am I adding too many options? And that's something we've already kind of talked about. And I would agree that you're putting too many options in front of someone and it's spread across the page. So I would make sure that each page has a main offer, and then maybe you have another section that's like other ways you can work with me for both your couples and your professionals. But just make it super easy for someone to understand, this is what I want you to buy on this page, and then here are other ways that you could give me money. And then the other question that you had was about your branding and if it seems consistent, because your website was originally built by someone that you hired, a professional brand and website designer, but now you've been DIYing a lot of these updates. And you are definitely keeping things on brand. But what I would say is that it's starting to feel like, or I'm starting to see your sugar flower brain trying to do website design, because even though the website still feels like Sugar Flowers by Kelsey Cakes, there's a lot of stuff that a website designer wouldn't do that you are doing. And so sort of an easy piece of advice here is there's a lot of just white background as I'm scrolling up the page. Like every once in a while, you're breaking things up with a color block or a background. But there are good long sections that start to bleed into one another and sort of make someone go, this is long. So even though you're doing a great job of keeping things looking on brand for you, I would say that it's worth either hiring your website designer to do a few hours of work to like redesign some key sections, or just, if you're willing to put in the time yourself, push yourself even further from a design perspective and figure out ways that you can do that yourself. But I hope that both you, Kelsey, and whoever's watching this video have gotten lots of nuggets about how you can make your website more succinct, more powerful, more punchy, say the things that need to get said. And if you have any questions, drop them in the comments, or Kelsey, you know how to reach out.